Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine and I'm back to review another episode of CBS's Survivor, season 32, episode number 8, Kaoh Rong, Brains versus Beauty versus Brawn. This episode was phenomenal. I'm so glad that I waited to watch it and I cannot wait to watch episode 9. Those girls got together and really turned it out, as they say, because of the fact that over the years, I have seen some girls' alliances work on Survivor, and then I've seen many fail. However, this move that Cydney came up with was fantastic, and I am not the biggest fan of Cydney because initially I thought that she was anti-working with the women, but the fact that everybody went along with this idea to get rid of Nick just blew me away. On top of the fact that in the end, we found out that the fifth vote for Nick was from Joe. So I'm wondering, like, when the girls came up with this idea, did they somehow run it by Joe, or did Joe just decide, screw it, I'm sick of Nick, I want him out? Either way, that was epic. This is why I love you, Survivor, but I never trust the edits because, as I've said over the past few years, sometimes it seems like it's a done deal for certain players, and other times there's going to be a blindside, and in this season, there's a crap load of blindside. That's why I'm really feeling the 30 block seasons of Survivor because they are certainly upping the ante as far as these blindsides. Now, it seemed like the Beauty and Brawn tribe were all together. They were completely tight. And they decided, you know what, we're going to pick off all the brains. Because right now, well, when I was watching the episode, Joe, Aubrey, and Debbie were the last 3 in the Brain tribe. And Joe was looking for something to grab hold of because he said that he felt powerless, which I should have paid attention while watching this episode, and I should have realized that Joe was going to like make a big move, which he did by joining the girls. I mean, regardless of the fact that he voted the way he voted, it didn't even matter because Nick was going to go home regardless, but still, like, kudos to Joe for making that move. Now, Cydney surprised me, obviously because she came up with that plan for the blindside. And she didn't surprise me that she came up with the plan, but that she was so aware of what was going on, because when Jason was telling that story about his autistic daughter, Cydney immediately knew that Jason was trying to garner sympathy. And I kind of figured out in this season that's not going to work because, as I say each season when I do these reviews, that people who compete in each season have watched previous seasons, they have seen the different tactics that other players have used, and they have decided, you know what, if I see it, I'm going to get rid of it, and they are doing that in a big way, especially in season 32. Now, they had this reward challenge where 2 players had to pick teammates. So, Julia became the captain of Team 1. Aubrey became the captain of Team 2. On Julia's team, there was Scott, Nick, Debbie, and Ty. And on Aubrey's team, it was Cydney, Michelle, Joe, and Jason. And basically, the reward was ice cream, which ice cream is pretty cool. But then I was thinking, on a side note, like, considering that the players haven't eaten much, like, all that dairy in their stomach, how is that gonna work? But every time I watch Survivor, I'm always thinking, like, health-wise, like, what is going on and how is, like, all of this affecting them? Don't mind me. But anyways, Team 1, they won the ice cream. And Aubrey was all upset because she felt like she let her team down and that she's always making bad decisions. But to be honest, in a way, it was Aubrey's fault because of the fact that she couldn't balance. But honestly, like, that challenge was pretty hard anyway because Cydney tried to balance and she couldn't. Michelle tried to balance and she couldn't. It was just a complete mess. So basically, Team 1 is enjoying their ice cream, and some of the players are getting annoyed with Jason because Jason feels like he is in control of the game. And Michelle is seeing that. She's noticing that, so Jason better watch out. Okay, so let me just quickly discuss that all-girl alliance thing. I just finished watching the episode, like I said, and it appeared that it was Jason and Scott that started talking about this all-girl alliance, and Nick was sitting there. And Cydney was feeling a little bit iffy about Nick, as she should be, because Nick cannot be trusted, because Nick was in the middle of everything that's going on. And now that Nick is gone, Michelle is the one that's now in the middle of everything that's going on. So Cydney asked Jason, like, did you send Nick to check up on me? Because you guys must think that there's some type of girls alliance. And Jason kind of pulls her to the side and says, oh, you know, Cydney, you were going off at me. I didn't notice Cydney going off at him. I noticed her calmly, as calm as you possibly can be in Survivor, asking him what the heck was going on, because it did look suspicious when Nick went off with Julia to ask her about this all-girl alliance, despite the fact that he told us that he didn't even believe that it existed. So Jason felt like he needed to address this and calm down the paranoia, I guess, to say that women are always paranoid, but it was kind of suspicious how the guys could go off and talk to whomever, but as soon as Cydney went off to, I guess, have fun with the girls, all of a sudden there's this all-girl alliance. In other words, it seemed like Cydney was saying, you're feeling so suspicious of me, maybe I should feel suspicious of you. And this was the kink in the armor of the Bronze and Beauty Alliance, and I was wondering, like, what is Cydney about to do? So Cydney basically told us, you know what? She said, if I have to blow up people's spots, if I have to mention that idol and that super idol, she was like, if a guy has to go, they gotta go. I don't even care. So they had the immunity challenge, right? And they had to hold their hands up with this thing and put their feet on this thing. And call me crazy, but it's pretty funny how Julia was the first person to jump down. And you're probably saying to yourself, Sage, well, why would you think that's funny? Because Jeff Probst had just finished saying that you have to be careful, and I'm paraphrasing, mind you, how the people react in this challenge, like who feels the safest. And when Julia jumped down, that was a clear sign that Julia feels the safest in this game, and that's very, very dangerous. Okay, so after Julia jumped down, Jason jumped down, Scott jumped down, Michelle jumped down, and Joe jumped down because they all wanted to eat. So it was basically down to, I think, who else jumped down? I think it was Debbie jumped down, I think Aubrey jumped down. And then it was down to Nick, Ty, and Cydney. And then Nick went down. I know I'm probably messing up the order, but I think you get where I'm going. So in the end, Cydney jumps down and Ty wins after Ty tried this whole psychological warfare type thing, trying to psych Cydney out. But here's the thing that I believe. I believe that Cydney was like, you know what? Now is not the time for me to show my true strength. And that's when she jumped down, because she seemed very calm, very zen. She seemed like she could do it, like she could hold out, but she let Ty win. And I thought that it was wonderful how Ty ran over to Cydney after the competition was over, and he kind of hugged her. He made sure she was okay. He helped her get up. And to me, Ty is just a wonderful person, and he's so full of love. And even if he makes a mistake in this game at all, to me, he's just a genuinely cool person. And I hope that he makes it very far in this game, as I've said from the beginning. Okay, so basically back at camp, it seemed like everybody was on board to vote out either Debbie or Aubrey, because what I didn't mention, and I forgot to mention, from that immunity challenge was that Neil basically revealed that one of the brain people was going home, and Ty mentioned, like, I'm going to stay up here as long as I can because I don't want any of the brains to win the immunity necklace or immunity at all. So all of a sudden, here comes Cydney, and Cydney approaches Debbie and Aubrey, and Cydney says, we need to get rid of Nick. And right there, I was like, now I wonder how this is going to play out, because Debbie was on board. It seemed like Aubrey was on board, but when Cydney approached Michelle and Julia, I was like, you know what, this could probably blow up in her face, but at least she's trying to make some sort of move. And it seemed like for a minute that Michelle and Julia were like, well, maybe we should get Jason out of the game, you know, and we have to do something that'll benefit us, but if we go along with this plan, then all of a sudden Jason will come after us. But what they really don't understand is that Jason is going to come for them regardless. And like Cydney said, it was about time that somebody made a move. So, and Julia actually said that she wanted to make a move anyway, but I was worried about what type of move she was going to try to make. So the guys feel uber confident going into tribal council, like they don't need to sweat it all because either Aubrey or Debbie was going home. But little did they know that apparently the girls all went along with that plan to get rid of Nick. And the votes basically came down to 2 votes for Aubrey. I believe it was Jason and Scott who voted for Aubrey. Nick voted for Debbie. Out of the blue, Ty voted for Jason. But Debbie, Cydney, Joe, Julia, and Michelle all voted out Nick. And it was so funny how the camera panned over to Neil, since Neil was, a part of the jury. How Neil was cracking up, and Debbie kind of cracked a smile. And then she went back to this serious face. I mean, when it comes down to Survivor, the one thing I've learned is that nothing is set in stone. And I've said this so many times that I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but nothing is set in stone until they make it to tribal council, and I cannot believe those edits at all. I cannot wait until tonight's episode. I know it's going to be insane because the boys are just pissed, and now it seems like the Girls Alliance is possibly imploding, but like I said, I'm going to wait until tribal council. But you guys take care. Don't forget to rate this video. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you thought about this episode and the season so far. I love you all. Take care. I'm Sage Valentine. Bye, guys. Bye.